March 30th, 1981, John Hinckley was a 25-year-old with romantic delusions, convinced that actress Jodie Foster would be impressed if he killed the president. Outside the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C., Hinckley caught up with his target.
And I don't think there was a better demonstration of how that training worked than the assassination attempt against President Reagan. Jerry Parr and Ray Shattuck, as soon as that first shot goes off, they grab the president and they throw him into the car.
Agent Tim McCarthy shielded Reagan with his body, taking a bullet in the process. Within moments, the limo sped away from a scene of chaos. Hinckley was buried under a mountain of Secret Service agents. Agent McCarthy, Press Secretary James Brady, and D.C. policeman Thomas Delahanty lay on the sidewalk, severely injured. All three survived, but Brady had permanent brain damage.
The old saying that, a Secret Service agent will take a bullet for the president. If you look at the Reagan assassination, Tim McCarthy did do that, but he was trained to do that as well, and his heroic actions demonstrate that.
Although the agents around the president reacted heroically, many mistakes had been made. The Secret Service relies on a perimeter system of protection. The outer is a preliminary check by local police. The middle has Secret Service agents searching for weapons.
And then there's the inner perimeter, and that's the final defense. It's the agents around the president.
Hinckley had penetrated 2 of the perimeters and fired at least 5 shots at point-blank range. The Secret Service had been trying for years to get metal detectors to screen for weapons. They got authorization days later. The perimeters were tightened, and the idea of an open arrival and departure ended after the attempt against President Reagan.
It's so loud inside my head with words that I should have said as I drown in my regrets. I can't take back the words I never said.
I really think the war on terror is a bunch of bullshit. Just a poor excuse for you to use up all your
hotel and headed for the limousine, and I heard some noise and I thought it was firecrackers. And the next thing I knew, one of the Secret Service agents behind me just seized me here by the waist and plunged me head first into the limo. I landed on the seat, and the seat divider was down, and then he dived in on top of me, which is part of their procedure to make sure that I'm covered. Well, as it turned out later, the shot that got me caromed off the side of the limousine and hit me while I was diving into the car. And it hit me back here under the arm, and then hit a rib, and that's what caused an extreme pain. And then it turned instead of edgewise and went tumbling down to within an inch of my heart. But when I got in the car, I hadn't felt anything. He landed on top of me, and then the pain, which now I know came from the bullet hitting that rib, that terrific pain. And I said, "Jerry, get off. I think you've broken a rib of mine." And he got off very quickly. And just then I coughed. And I had a handful of bright red, frothy blood. So I said, "And I guess evidently the broken rib has pierced the lung." Well, he simply turned and said George Washington Hospital, and we were on our way. But, and all the way I used up my handkerchief, and then I used up his, but when I got to the emergency entrance, I got out of the car and walked in, and a nurse met me, and I told her I was having a little trouble breathing, and what I thought it was. And the next thing I knew then, when my knees began to turn to rubber, and I wound up on a gurney, and I was wearing a suit like this for the first time I'd ever worn it. It was brand new, and they were taking scissors and cutting it off of me.
And you were thinking, what did they do? Did you ever think you might die?
No, although I didn't just leave it to chance. I talked to my friend upstairs about that.
But you never thought that this was the end?
No.
Because some people in that situation, in a trauma situation, think it's over.
No, I found out afterward that a lot of those people there at the hospital thought it could very likely be the end. They said that I was very near going into a state of shock. And I had also lost more than half the blood in my body. And so that, but...
Were you angry?
Well, I didn't know for quite a while until they began to tell me about the young man that had done this and what his problem was, that he was not exactly on a normal basis. And so then I added him to my prayers, that prayers for myself, that, well, if I wanted healing for myself, maybe he should have some healing for himself.
The Pope forgave the man who shot him. You forgive John Hinckley?
Yes, I found out he wasn't thinking on all
Levels.
on all cylinders. Yeah.
Bill Casey, the late Bill Casey,